Today we're learning about Laura Ingalls Wilder. She was an American authoress that lived from 1867 to 1957. We're on page number 217 in our history books. Let's go over some important words. A prairie schooner is a wagon covered by canvas used by pioneers for traveling west. So this was the covered wagon that we're all familiar with when we talk about the pioneers. An autobiography is a true story of a person's life that was written by that person. So an autobiography is a true story about a person that was written by that person. But a biography is a true story of a person that is written by another person. So for example, if I wanted to write a true story about myself, that would be an autobiography. But if I instead chose to write a true story about somebody else, that would just be a biography. An important name to remember is Laura Ingalls Wilder. She was the author of the Little House books for children. So let's start reading here on page number 217. The Big Woods. Long ago, a little girl and her family lived in a little house in the big woods of Wisconsin. So that's important to remember. She lived in Wisconsin. They were Pa and Ma Ingalls and their daughters, Mary, Laura, and baby Carrie. Their little house was built from logs that Pa had chopped from trees in the big woods. Although no other people lived near them, the Ingalls family had plenty of neighbors. Bears, panthers, and wolves, as well as timid deer, squirrels, and rabbits, lived in the big woods with them. Were Laura and Mary ever scared of their neighbors? Sometimes, but the Ingalls family knew that they were safe and snug in their little house in the big woods. So, some important places are Wisconsin and Minnesota. These are two northern states. They border Canada, actually. They are in central United States, so they're right in the middle and in the north central part of the United States. Moving west, we're on page number 218. As time passed, more pioneer families began to move to Wisconsin. The Ingalls could hear the axes of men chopping trees to build their own log cabins nearby. So people were starting to move into where they lived in Wisconsin. Paul decided it was time to move because there were too many people around. So he built a prairie schooner, and the family's dishes, clothes, food, and furniture were taken from the little house and packed into the prairie schooner. Early one morning, the Ingalls began their journey. The wagon wheels began to roll, and the little house grew smaller and smaller until finally Laura and Mary could see it no more. This was only the first of 3 big moves for the Ingalls family. Adventure filled their lives. We're going to learn about a sickness that comes to the Ingalls family on page number 219. First, the Ingalls moved to the prairie. Then they moved to a farm in Minnesota on the banks of Plum Creek. It was here that everyone but Pa and Laura came down with scarlet fever. So they first moved to the prairies, so that would have been in the area like Kansas and Nebraska, places like that, maybe even a little bit into Iowa, has a lot of prairies in it. But then after that, they moved back up to the north central state of Minnesota, and they lived on a riverbank by a creek that was called Plum Creek. While they were there, everybody but Laura and Pa came down with scarlet fever. Now, this was a very dangerous sickness, and we're going to learn about why it was dangerous. The doctor came every day. Pa and Laura took care of Ma, Mary, Carrie, and little Grace. So they had another baby. But Mary's fever got worse. So with this sickness, you would get really, really high fevers, much worse than just like a normal cold fevers. Slowly, she became blind because of this. Everyone got well, but Mary could never see again. Laura promised herself that she would be Mary's eyes. Every new thing that Laura saw, she described to Mary. Perhaps in this way, Laura learned to give beautiful descriptions. She saw flowers, birds, and animals for Mary as she talked about them. So because her older sister Mary got this sickness, scarlet fever, and because she had a high temperature for so long, it caused her to go blind. And Laura helped her by telling her about things and describing what she saw to Mary, and we're going to learn about how that helps her later on in her life. So that's the end of this video. We will pick up on page number 219 in our next video.